Sergeant Lady State University, Pinta Campus, offers Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, major in programming. Here at SLSU, we commit to be smart and green university that advances education, technological and professional instruction, research and innovation, community engagement services, and progressive leadership in arts, science and technology that are relevant to the needs of the global communities. We produce graduate and lifelong learners equipped with knowledge that enhances lives and invigorates economic development. For today's video, we're going to assemble and disassemble a PC. The first thing to do is to remove the cover. The standard way of removing tower case used to be undo the screws in the back of the case. Slide the cover back about an inch and lift it off. Next is to remove the adapter cards. Make sure if the cards The next thing to do is to remove the adapter cards. Make sure if cards has any cables or wires that may be attached and decided if it would be easier to remove them before or after you remove the card. Remove the screw if any that holds the card in place. Grab the cards by edges, front and back, and gently rock it lengthwise to release it. Next is to remove the drives. Removing drives is easier. There can be possible 3 types of drives present in your computer system. Hard disk drive, CD, DVD, Blu-ray drives, floppy disk drive, almost absolute nowadays. They usually have a power connector or data cable attached from the device to a controller card or connector on the motherboard. CD, DVD, Blu-ray drive may have an analog cable connected to the sound card for direct audio output. Next is to remove the memory module. Memory modules are mounted on the motherboard as chips that can be damaged by manual force if applied improperly. Be careful and handle the chip only by the edges. SIMMs and DIMMs are removed in a different way. After removing all the cables, you can now remove the motherboard. Before removing all the connectors from the motherboard, make sure you memorize the connectors for assembling the computer if required, as it may require connecting the connectors at its place. Remove the screws from the back of the motherboard and you will be able to detach it from the cabinet. Now, remove the CPU fan from the motherboard. The heat sink will be visible now, which can be removed with the pulling tab upward. Finally, the processor is visible now, which can be removed by the plastic tab, which can be pulled back once stretching it side away. After removing its all parts, make sure to remember that the last part you remove is the first thing you will assemble. The assembling of computer system is exactly the opposite of disassembling operation. Before starting assembling the computer system, make sure you have the screws and a screwdriver for those. The first thing to do is to mount the processor. The first step you assemble the computer system starts with mounting the processor on the processor socket of the motherboard. To mount the process, you don't need to apply the force. The special ZIF or zero insertion force socket are usually used to prevent any damage to the processor pins. Once the processor is mounted, the heatsink will be attached to the top of the processor. The CPU fan is also attached to the top of the heatsink. Next is to fix the motherboard in the tower case. Now the motherboard is to be fixed vertically in the tower case, and the screws are fixed from behind the motherboard. Next is to mount the memory modules. It's time now to mount the memory modules on the motherboard by aligning the RAM to its socket on the motherboard and press it downward. Make sure the side tabs are fixed into the RAM notch. If not, you may still have to press a bit. Next is to install the drives. Install the CD-DVD drives at the top front end of the cabinet and screw it. Install the hard disk drive and floppy disk drive below the CD-DVD drive and screw it. Make sure once it's screwed there's no vibration either the CD-DVD hard disk or floppy disk drives. Now to connect the power supply. Now line up the supply at the top back of the cabinet, unscrew it. The power connectors for motherboard, power supply, and CPU fan power supply are to be connected. If the cabinet cooling fan is required, then it is to be screwed at the back and grill of the cabinet, and its power connector is to be connected from MPS. Next is to connect the cables. Now select the appropriate data cable and connect to the end of the cable to its drive socket, and another end its appropriate connector at the motherboard. For SATA hard disk drive or CD DVD drives, use SATA cable and its power cable. Else, if you use IDE data cable, do the proper jumper setting as per the usage requirement. And now we are all set. Cover the tower, replacing it and pressing it to the front side and screw it. That is all for today's video. Thank you for watching.